Hey guys, Jim here with another video for you. This is 50 Years in Film, 2002. But before we begin, if you like this video at the end, please give me a thumbs up, a possible subscribe, and most important of all, leave comments. I love corresponding back and forth with you guys. It's been absolutely awesome. Now, 2002, it's kind of an underwhelming year, although there are some great titles. It's a little hit and miss though. And believe it or not, this is the first year since I started this that I do not have any comedies. There were some great comedies that year. I just, for some reason, don't seem to own any of them or I can't find them. So we're going to start off with a musical this year, and it was the winner of Best Picture, and that is Chicago, starring Renee Zellweger, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Richard Gere, and Queen Latifah. Directed by Rob Marshall. I'm sorry, I'm not a big musical guy. To be full transparency, I've seen this movie once, and it was years ago, and I kind of wasn't really paying attention to it. My wife owns this DVD, which is fine. It won Best Picture, so obviously it's a good movie, but I've never seen it, or I just really don't recall seeing it. That's it for musicals. Then we have one drama, and it is Insomnia, starring Al Pacino, Robin Williams, and Hilary Swank, directed by Christopher Nolan. This is Christopher Nolan's follow-up to Memento, and it's really the only what I would call studio film that he's ever really done. This was a product for hire type thing. He adapted this from an earlier version, which I have not seen, but from what I have heard is superior than this film. But I really like this film, and I think Al Pacino gives a very good understated performance. Normally he's a little bit over the top, a la Devil's Advocate, but in this movie he kind of plays it the way he should play it, and Robin Williams is great in this movie. So yeah, I really like Insomnia. Now we're switching over to the action. And from my Bond collection, 2002's installment was Die Another Day, starring Pierce Brosnan, Judi Dench, and Halle Berry. We're going to cut to it. This movie sucks. It is probably my least favorite of all the Bond movies. Halle Berry's great. The highlight of this movie, not to sound sexist, is her coming out of the water in the bathing suit when they're imitating the moment from Dr. No with Ursula Andress. This movie's a mess. I cannot stand this movie. It's ridiculous. We're not going to talk about it anymore. Don't be surprised if this ends up in the Wall of Shame, Volume 2. Okay, continuing action. We're going to a World War II drama, Wind Talkers, directed by John Woo, starring Nicolas Cage, Christian Slater, and Adam Rourke. This is based on a true story about how during World War II, the U.S. Army or Marines, I don't recall which, enlisted Native Americans to do codes that the Germans could not break because they never heard of the language that they were speaking. And Nicolas Cage in this movie is assigned to protect one of these Native American soldiers. And this is a really good movie. It's a solid film. It's not John Woo's best film. It's not Nicolas Cage's best film, but it is a very solid film that unfortunately has kind of been forgotten. Next, from my John Clancy, Jack Ryan collection, The Sum of All Fears, starring Ben Affleck, Morgan Freeman, and Liev Schreiber, directed by Phil Aldrin Robinson. I was really excited to see this film, quite honestly, because I've read most of the Jack Ryan books, the original ones anyways, And Sum of All Fears was actually my favorite of those novels. I was completely underwhelmed by this movie. And the main reason is because they totally changed it after the events of 9/11, which I understand. The book would have been, if they would have translated the book as is, read and released the film right after 9/11, yeah, it would have been very controversial. So I understand why they changed major plot points. But as it is, if I never read the novel, I probably would have enjoyed the movie a lot more. Ben Affleck's fine as Jack Ryan. I still prefer the other two actors, believe it or not, either Alec Baldwin or Harrison Ford. But it's a solid movie. Nothing great, but it's solid. But Ben Affleck's buddy Matt Damon came out with an action movie that year that blew most of the other action movies from that year out of the water. The Bourne Identity. Starring Matt Damon. I always forget her name, I'm sorry. Franca Potente, that's her name. And Chris Cooper. Directed by Doug Liman. This movie kicks ass. When it came out, when I saw the trailers for it, I was like, yeah, Matt Damon kicking ass, I don't buy it, because at that point, he definitely was not an action star. He was more of a serious actor. And I was blown away. I love all three of the original Bourne trilogy movies, but I still think this one's probably my favorite. The other two I really enjoy, but there's too much quick cutting. This one, it's filmed and edited more coherently than the other two. But yeah, what an introduction to a character that has become so iconic through the years. Great, great movie. Now we're switching back over to the fantasy. And from my Harry Potter collection, the second installment, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Directed by Chris Columbus and starring basically the same cast from the original film. As I said in my previous video, I have not seen this film. I have not seen any of these films. Therefore, I don't have anything to say about these films other than the fact that I know they're very popular. So that's Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Next, The Two Towers, the second installment of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, directed by Peter Jackson. And again, starring basically the same cast as the original. Although this one definitely has Andy Serkis as Gollum featured more prominently. Two Towers is a great movie. It's a great continuation of the story. Usually when you have trilogies, the second story is usually, just kind of log time. Let's get from point A to point B, other than certain cases like Godfather and Star Wars, of course. Two Towers is basically the action movie of the three. I mean, this movie is basically just battle after battle after battle. I love all three films. I don't rank them. To me, they're just one huge movie. But yeah, Two Towers, great, great movie. And then we have Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, starring Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, and Willem Dafoe. Spider-Man took the country by storm. People figured that it was going to be a hit, but they didn't realize how big of a hit it was going to be. 2002 was supposed to be the year of Star Wars again, and we'll get to that movie next. And that movie was predicted to be the biggest hit of the year, of course. Spider-Man beat Attack of the Clones by over $100 million in the box office that year and was the #1 movie for that year. Spider-Man has become a classic. And even though the X-Men came out, previously and kind of jump-started the superhero craze, this is the film that really, really took it to the next level. Spider-Man remains a great movie 25 years later. Willem Dafoe is iconic as the Green Goblin, and Tobey Maguire, in a lot of people's minds, is still their favorite Spider-Man. Although I gotta admit, I'm starting to lean towards Tom Holland. He's great in the role. But again, Spider-Man, great movie. Whether you like whether you like superhero films or not, it's a very, very great movie. But speaking of Star Wars, the second installment of the prequel trilogy came out that year, Attack of the Clones. Directed by George Lucas, starring Natalie Portman, Hayden Christensen, and Ewan McGregor. Where do we go with for this? I'm treading lightly here. I don't hate Attack of the Clones. I don't hate any of the well, no, there is one Star Wars movie I hate, and we'll get to that one way down the road. But I don't hate Attack of the Clones. And like Phantom Menace, the first time I saw it, I really enjoyed it. And then I saw it again and enjoyed it less, and etc., etc., etc. However, through the years, I've realized this movie is even worse than Phantom Menace. The main reason why is because every scene that Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman are in together, it's horrible. The dialogue is horrible. The performances are horrible. And I don't blame them. I blame George Lucas. Because George Lucas is great when it comes to grand ideas and visual effects and cutting edge filmmaking. He's terrible with dialogue and always has been. And it's really evident in this movie. There are some lines of dialogue in this movie that made me laugh out loud in the theater. There are moments of greatness in this movie, but unfortunately they're too far and few between. Attack of the Clones, huge disappointment. Then we're back to my Star Trek collection. For the final film in this collection, Star Trek Nemesis, directed by Stuart Beard, starring Patrick Stewart, Jonathan Frakes. Tom Hardy. I forgot. Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy basically plays the younger clone of Patrick Stewart. I had no idea who Tom Hardy was, and quite honestly, I didn't even realize he was in this movie until I rewatched these movies when I started doing the series. I don't like Nemesis. I didn't like it then. I don't like it now. Enough said. But next science fiction movie on the list, much better than those two. M. Night Shyamalan's Signs, starring Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix. I really like Signs. Well, I like most of Signs. The ending is ridiculous. But other than that, I really enjoy this movie. It's creepy as hell. It's got some great performances. Joaquin Phoenix and Mel Gibson play off each other extremely well, as do these two. Look how young those two are. Yeah, Signs is a solid movie. It's not my favorite Shyamalan movie, but it's up there. I think it's his best movie. Let me rephrase that, okay? I really like the first three movies from this guy. Everything afterwards is hit and miss with me. So we'll leave it at that. But yeah, Signs, solid movie. But my favorite science fiction movie that year, without a doubt, Steven Spielberg's Minority Report. Starring Tom Cruise, Colin Farrell, Samantha Morton, and the wonderful late, great Max von Sydow. I love Minority Report. It's one of my favorite Spielberg movies. This movie kicks ass. It is so much fun. The story's great. The visuals are great. It's just a wonderful, wonderful film. I know a lot of people have kind of turned on this movie through the years. I don't know why, but I absolutely love Minority Report. Can't sing the praises enough. So we're easing from science fiction into horror. I figured this would be a good gateway for it. Jason X, the 10th Friday the 13th film. Directed by Jim Isaac. Starring a bunch of people I've never heard of, although David Cronenberg does make a cameo at the beginning. And Kane Hodder, of course, plays Jason. Okay, here we go. If I didn't lose my subscribers on the last video with my take on the Harry Potter films, here we go with this one. I'll probably put the final nail in the coffin. Universally, this movie is loathed and considered the worst of the Jason films. You know what? I understand that, and I agree with that sentiment. However, I love this movie. I don't care what anybody says, because this movie knows exactly what it's supposed to be. It's a satire and a parody of the Friday the 13th slasher films. They just set it in space and made it as crazy as possible. The scene on the holodeck with the callback to Camp Crystal Lake circa 1980s is one of the funniest goddamn things I've ever seen on screen. Is this movie good? Hell no. This movie's a piece of crap. But I absolutely love it anyway. Then we're going to Blade 2 for my Blade trilogy. Directed by Guillermo del Toro, who is a filmmaker that I absolutely adore. Starring Wesley Snipes, Chris Christopherson, and Ron Perlman. The first movie, Blade movie, was an action movie. This one is definitely a horror film. It's got plenty of action in it, but this movie is also creepy, scary. It's excellent. Out of the three, this one's my favorite, without a doubt. If anybody is a Blade 2 fan with the mutant vampire design and the way that the vampires act, I would highly suggest a TV show called The Strain. It was on for 4 seasons on FX. It is available on video and streaming. I own all 4 seasons on DVD. It was based on some novels that Guillermo del Toro, I'm having a hard time with accents, or with names today, guys, sorry. He wrote these novels, and the TV series is based on the novels, and he executive produced, was hands-on producer of the TV show. To make a long story short, if you like Blade 2, check out The Strain. You'll really enjoy it. Then we're going from vampires to werewolves with dog soldiers. Directed by Neil Marshall. Starring Sean Pertwee, Kevin McKidd, and Liam Cunningham. This movie kicks ass. Let me repeat that. This movie kicks ass. This was a blind rental from Blockbuster Video, of all things, on DVD in like 2004 or so, because the cover kind of struck me, and the tagline was like, or one of the blurbs on the video said that it was like a cross between Predator and werewolves, and it just kind of struck me. So I took it home, watched it, had a hell of a time understanding it, because again, like Trainspotting, the accents are so thick and there are so much slang terms in this that I didn't understand. But my God, I love this movie. This movie is like a war movie where the army that they're fighting are werewolves, and I love every minute of this movie. This transfer is not very good, but recently Scream Factory came out with a 4K and a new scan for a Blu-ray, which I will be getting eventually. If you've never seen Dog Soldiers, what are you waiting for? This movie kicks ass. And then we've got Brotherhood of the Wolf, directed by Christoph Gaines, starring Vincent Cassel, Mark Dacascos, and Monica Bellucci. And what's the main guy's name? I'm sorry. Samuel LeBrun. Yes. Again, I'm terrible with names. This is a French film. I covered this one on one of my underrated, forgotten films to check out. This movie is batshit crazy. It's not really a werewolf movie per se. I can't even describe what this movie is other than, like Dog Soldiers, a kick-ass time. This movie is a lot of fun. Please check it out if you never have. But I saved this one for last. That's Frailty. Directed by Bill Paxton, starring Bill Paxton, Matthew McConaughey, and Powers Booth. Frailty is a great movie. A lot of people have not seen it. It says 2001 on here, but it was actually released in 2002. This movie is excellent. It's a slow burn. Unfortunately, a lot of people have never heard of this movie. If you are one of those people, please seek it out immediately. But the main reason why I decided to keep this one as last is because I wanted to pay a little bit of tribute to a couple of the people involved. First of all, Powers Booth stars in this movie, and it's one of his last performances. He would pass away about 5 years later. And we've got a couple more Powers Booth movies coming up. But he's great in this movie. He plays a Texas Marshal, which he does a lot of, but he does it very well. And most of his screen time is with Matthew McConaughey. He does not have any scenes with Bill Paxton. But he's great in it. And it was kind of a tombstone reunion with the two. However, the main reason I wanted to consider this one last is because of Bill Paxton. Everybody knows Bill Paxton is an actor. He's iconic. He was in so many wonderful movies, but he didn't direct too many. He only directed 2. And this was his second movie that he directed, and it's a wonderful, wonderful movie. I wish to God he would have directed more. This movie is a slow burn with incredible performances. I can't recommend it enough. I saw it at the theater, and it just crept up on me. It's just a really, really, really solid movie. And that's the end of 2002. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, a possible subscribe, and most importantly, again, leave those comments. 2003 is going to be coming out, and 2003 was kind of a weird year for me because guess what? I started working at a movie theater again, and I worked at a theater from 2003 to about halfway through 2004. So the next 2 years, we're going to have some stories to tell. But until then, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll see you on the next one.